Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale. And I am Larry Cox, but I'm not your host tonight. I'm your guest. I will be bringing on the host in one moment here, but I do want to welcome some people to the show: Lisa Lancaster, Mary Boysworth, William Campbell, George Kelichek, Jill Oden. Welcome to the show, everybody. Why don't you share and like the show, everyone? Clayton Orwell. Clayton, it was great to see you at voting yesterday. You and your lovely wife. But I am going to bring on the host now. Let her introduce herself, talk to you guys for a minute, and then she can begin to put me under the microscope. Tene, welcome to being the host of This Week from Rockdale.
I'm back. I have not gone anywhere. I'm still here in full force because I'm here to support Larry Cox. Thank you, Larry, for bringing me on. Thank you for allowing me to join in an effort to get you on this board of education. Um, I'm here. I'm here to support Larry because the mission is still the mission. Change. The mission does not go away. The fight does not go away. The mission is still there and we need change. Hey, Kai. So I am back in full force. I want to first thank all of you all who voted for me. 5,288 strong. I see that you all want change. So just because I'm not in that seat does not mean I have stopped working. Again, like I said, I have a 4 and an 8-year-old. I'm working, but my first mission is to get Larry on this board. So I hope that all 5,288 of you all who came and voted for me in this last election will come back out and vote for Larry in this last election. Myself, who was in the same race with Larry and the incumbent, we are both stomping for Larry. We are both trying to get him on this board.
Darlene Smith is also, she came and picked up about 20 signs for me yesterday and put them out in her neighborhood in her part of the county. So I actually have yours, Darlene's, and Kevin's endorsement.
All of our endorsements because we want to see change. We want to see change. And so we are back in full force to support Larry Cox. And so we're going to get started. We are going to get started. Hello, RL. How are you? We're going to get started. And the first thing, Larry, right off the bat, please talk about your platform. Why are you running for a seat on the Rockdale County Board of Education?
You know, today I have had four. I've got 4 daughters. 3 of them have went through and graduated the Rockdale County school system. When my daughters first, when my first daughter graduated in 2007, and my last daughter graduated in 2015, and there was a marked difference between my daughter who graduated in 2007 and 2015. The school system had changed a lot, and and I was hoping that it wasn't declining as bad as I thought it was. Then my grandkids started going to school here in Rockdale County a few years ago, and my daughter last year told me, "Dad, I love you. I love being close to you, but I've got to do what's right for the kids." And she moved the kids up in the Oconee area, and where the school systems are ranked a lot better. The kids are actually thriving up there in that school system. So I know my daughter did the right thing for my grandkids and for her, but I deeply miss my grandkids. And I've got another granddaughter that will be starting school in kindergarten this year. And I really want to keep Janiyah here in Rockdale County. So what can I do if I don't fight for my family in the school system? So one of the things I looked at is I look at it from a business aspect point and I looked at it from a sports aspect. Is what's the real problem with the county and the education system? And as I started doing my diving and looking and talking to educators and talking to administrators, those who would talk to you, and tonight that's an issue. Those who will talk to you, because they're afraid things will get back and that it could jeopardize their jobs. I really discovered it was a lack of leadership at the top. And when we look at sports teams and we look at Fortune 500 companies and these large corporations, when they start having poor performance in the field or on the factory floor, it all stems from a poor performance at the top. So I feel that our poor performance that we're having in the classroom, it directly stems from the poor performance that we're getting from our superintendent. And so I felt that we needed a change at that level for us to truly be able to change what's happening in the classroom. And then I was concerned about safety in the classroom today. I mean, my grandkids had got bullied a little bit, and things had happened, and there was really no satisfaction for my daughter. Then I spoke to other people who had kids in school, and they would tell me, stories of just, no discipline in the classroom. I, talked to actually some members that are on the board and told me that their children were having difficult times in school because there would be nothing that half a day out of one of the days that they weren't able to be in the classroom because they would be a disruptive students. They would all have to evacuate the classroom in order to get the student under control. So, I've been hearing these stories about, discipline and that needed to be reestablished. And then also what I was beginning to find out was that the school board members, they do not have town halls. They do not visit the schools because they were misled. They were misled to believe they were not allowed to visit schools, misled to believe they couldn't have community events. And when your Board of Education isn't involved and doesn't know what's going on in the schools, it's hard for them to really know that the superintendent and his staff are actually carrying out policy or doing their jobs. They tell you that they're carrying out policy, but then you hear stories that maybe not, and that gets to be the issue. So with me, my major concerns are leadership at the top, leadership in the school system, is safety in the school, and it's community involvement. Because I not only do I as a school board member want to visit the schools, but I want to establish a community committee. And this committee would be made up of all aspects of the community and the educational system so that we could brainstorm and come up with ideas together on how to fix this problem. But to fix a problem today, the first thing you have to do is admit you have a problem.
Mhm. Yep, that's true. So, Larry, you covered about three different areas that you and I completely agree upon: discipline, community engagement, and new leadership. So, just to expound a little bit more on that as far as discipline, I had many had a teacher come up to me about 2 weeks ago, not about 2 weeks ago, during May. I couldn't even make it to my child's t-ball practice because she and two other parents stopped me in the parking lot and said, "Look, if you're going to be on that board, I need for you to look at discipline." She said the administrators don't feel that they can attend to the discipline because they're being told that they need to keep the number of suspensions down. They need to keep the number of ISS down, because it makes the county look bad. So she said how demoralizing it is. How demoralizing it is for a teacher to watch a child, and these were her words, curse out another child. The teacher try to solve the issue by sending the child out, and then the child come back 2 minutes later. She said that's so demoralizing. She said, "So what are you going to do about it?" So, I talked about what I wanted to do about it. I'm not on the board. You still have the opportunity to be on the board. So, Larry, how do you think you can solve those issues? One, the local school administrators feeling like their hands are tied because the county administration is saying, we don't want to see all these suspensions. We don't want to see all these ISS. We don't want to see all these discipline issues. And then the teachers feeling demoralized when they try to discipline. So, how do you think you can tackle those issues?
And this is one of those things when I talk about we need to admit that we have the problem, and there's policy in place. You and I both know tonight there are policy and there are discipline standards in place. This is our problem. Our policy and our discipline standards are not being adhered to. What I would like to do as our next school board member is to get with all the rest of the school board, and we need to review the policies. We review the policies and say, these are the policies that are in place. Then when we look at these policies and we say, okay, now we need to set discipline parameters. And these parameters needed to be adhered to. They need to be followed. Because I've spoken to several different former counselors and social workers. And that's what they have advised. And like I told you, I'm going to get advice from professionals, right? Because I'm not a professional, but I am someone who knows how to get the advice of and listen to professionals when it comes to early developmental behavior. Okay. So these professionals have advised me this: you set your policies, you set your procedures, you set your standard of discipline, and you adhere to those standards. And you do not make it an individual basis, and you do not do mass punishment. They said you set your standards, adhere to your standards, and the board needs to be aware of what's going on in the school system and make sure that the policies are being adhered to. Because it is the superintendent's responsibility to carry out all policies that the board sets in place. It is the board's responsibility to make sure their policies are being adhered to. And there's where we have the problem. The board really isn't involved in setting the policies, and then they're definitely not involved in making sure that the policies are being adhered to. Um, so there's the big problem with it. Lack of board involvement, because the board has been told they're not allowed to be involved because that comes under the parameters of the day-to-day operations of the superintendent. Now, day-to-day operation isn't everything. And we've got to understand this organization called the Georgia School Board Association, which is supposed to advise the school boards of what they can and can't do, is made up of former superintendents of schools. So if you've got an organization that's made up of former superintendent of schools, then what are they really advising you to do? They're advising you to actually stay out of the way, let the superintendent do everything, and you rubber stamp everything and don't get involved. The school board should not be involved in the day-to-day operation, but they are responsible to make sure that the person that works for them, the school superintendent, is doing his job. So that's how I would handle that. And I would not be quiet about it. And that's the thing about it. And I think that's one of the reasons that some people might not want me on the board, because I do have a reputation in this community of not being quiet about things when they are things that you shouldn't be quiet about and people need to know about. So I will go to the board meetings and I will question this behavior. And one of the things that I will question is how the board meetings are ran. The board meetings are supposed to be run by Robert's Rules of Order. Today, if you've ever been to one of those board meetings, you will know they are some of the worst run meetings I have ever seen in my life. They are not run to the standard of Robert's Rules of Order. And I will demand that our board meetings are ran properly. And when they're ran properly, then board members will have the availability to get their voice and their message out.
Thank you. Now, interspersed with my questions, I'm going to give you questions that I've had from the community.
Okay.
So one question, we're going to get back to your platform also in a second. One question was, well, Larry, one concern was Larry is maybe, I don't know how to say this, can't be controlled, maybe a loose cannon. How are we going to control him on the board? Well, one, I don't believe in controlling anyone. I mean, we're all humans. We're all autonomous humans, so no one should be controlled. But I guess their question is, will you come in and just ravage the school board? And I said, well, he's one of seven. The board is run by consensus. So he has to be able to work with the other people, and he has to have at least three other people to vote with him to get anything done. So that's what I said. So I want you to address that concern.
Well, people have asked me the same thing, and actually some members of the board were concerned about that too until they actually observed me on the campaign trail. They observed me at the debate forums, and they actually got to talk to me about my policies and how I looked and what a board should do. First of all, I believe in order, and that's one of the things I just mentioned, that I don't like how the meetings are run, because they're not run in an orderly manner. They're not run accustomed to Robert's rules. What people will find out about Larry Cox in the environment like that, I'm a rule follower. And I know you guys don't think I'm a rule follower, but I actually am a rule follower. But there are ways to get your point across. There are ways to work within the system to accomplish your goals as long as everybody plays by the rules. Now, but this is the thing. I'm not going to be the only one playing by the rules. I will call out others when they're not playing by the rules, and I will not be quiet. My voice won't be hushed. I won't be like former board members who had been threatened if they were too loud that they would be sued and lose everything that they have, because there were board members who are not on the board any longer who were threatened with legal actions that if they didn't stay quiet. So I'm going to do what I'm legally allowed to do. I am going to represent like I'm supposed to, and I'm going to educate the public through my town halls of what I can and can't do. Because when they're going to come to town halls, they're probably going to expect me to be bashing the board and bashing policy. Tonight, I won't do that because I'm not allowed to do that. State law, once the board as a body passes something, then the board must adhere to it. Now, at the board meetings, I can make motions to overturn something, to change something. But if the board still thinks that we need to keep doing that, in the public's eye, what I'm allowed to do is tell them this is the policy. If you don't like our policy, you need to come to the meeting and tell us why you don't like our policy. You need to send us emails telling us why you don't like our policy. But that's our policy, and it's the policy as a board member that I have to make sure that the school system adheres to. And that's who I am and who I'll be. I mean, yeah, I've got a show, and on my show, these are my rules. So I'm allowed to do what I want to do and say what I want to say. But under the rules that govern the Board of Education, which was the 2010 and 2020 legislation, and under the ethics rules that the board has established, then and under Robert's rules, which the meetings are run by, I have rules that I must follow to be a board member, and I intend to do that.
Thank you for that. Speaking of norms, the this goes into your second a second platform about community engagement. There is a board norm that right now says that board members do not respond to individual emails. They leave that up to the board chair because the board chair will be the voice of the board, and many times the board chair defers to the superintendent. So, speaking of community engagement, how what are your thoughts about that board norm?
That,
And then how would you go about implementing more community involvement, your community advisory council, even a student advisory council to the board of education? And by the way, Ms. Lancaster said she would love to be on that board. On that council.
in my opinion, that board norm violates state law. And I'm going to read you actually from the ethics code, which is this is the one of the few ethics codes that is in the Rockdale code, which is also state law. And I'll read you that state code also. So a local board of education shall not adopt or follow any code of ethics which prevents the members of such board from discussing freely the policies and actions of such board outside a board meeting. This shall not apply to matters that are discussed in executive session, which are exempt from disclosure. Okay, and this is OCGA 50-18-72. So Georgia state law prohibits the board from enacting or establishing any policy that prevents a board member from discussing any actions that the board has taken.
So would you say that if you're elected to the seat, you would make every effort to do away with that board norm such that if I emailed Larry Cox, my Board of Education member, he can feel free to email me back and respond
Yeah,
to my email?
yes, I would. Unless, and this is what I actually like Walton County's policy. because I've read Walton County policy. And what the board member would do is Walton County has a clear chain of command that is on their website. If someone has a complaint, and it actually has the chain of command that you would go through. And if there is no satisfaction after going through that chain of command, then the board member would then intervene on behalf of their constituent. I would actually like to see that type of policy implemented, because I do want my response back would be to this. It would be to actually direct them to the proper person that they needed to go to actually field their complaint. But then they would also, after you've gone through and I would send them the whole chain of command that they would need to go through, and would let them know, if you have not received proper satisfaction after going through this process, please respond back to me. And at that point, I would then take it to the board. That's the policy I believe we should have in place. That's the policy I would want to see, more of a policy like Walton County. I think that's a great policy, um, and uh, and it's something I think that would work well in Rockdale County if we would establish it.
And I know we need to move on to something else, but I'll just say, in my time in Rockdale, I have emailed Board of Education members about the policies they've set. So it's not about I'm mad because the teacher did something. No, no, no. It was about a specific policy you all set, and I want to get your understanding. I want to get why. I want to understand why you did it,
Well,
and
and you can see under state law, they're allowed to respond about a policy.
mm-hmm.
It
Yes.
actually says they can't pass a policy or an ethics code stopping them from it. So by refusing to and saying they're not allowed to, they're actually in
Mm-hmm.
violation of state law.
Well, the person didn't say they weren't allowed to. They say they've adopted a norm so that they will allow the board chair to respond only. So that just brings in community engagement, because that shows a lack of community engagement. So can you talk a little bit about your community advisory council, and if you're interested in having a student advisory council? I know APS has a student advisory council
I,
to the board also.
my community advisory council, I wanted to actually have students included in it.
Okay.
So that's what I wanted, to actually have students included in that community advisory council. What I would like to do, and I've been told since the idea that it may be difficult to get administrators and teachers because they may feel pressure, but I do know former administrators and retired teachers who would not have a problem serving on behalf of their 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 former coworkers. So I think that may be something we would look at doing, instead of having active administrators and faculty members, have retired ones that would feel more comfortable being able to serve in that capacity. Then we would of course then have community members from the community, and parents, and
Mm-hmm.
then students. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe if you have that broad range of community involvement, then I think we get the perspective of everybody in the community, and we can discuss these things and see, and we, because everybody sees it from a different paradigm today, and we get to see it from everybody's paradigm and perspective to make an informed decision, and actually be able to, the board be able to discuss it. Well, this is the way students look at this. This is the way teachers look. This is the way administrators look at this. This is the way parents look at it, and this is the way business owners look at it. And then we're able to make a more informed decision as a board when it comes to policies.
Right. Right. So thank you for that. Oh, much like Lisa, Miss Lancaster has said, I'm throwing my hat in to be on that board also. Once you get on the board, I appreciate that. Before we get to your last platform, again, I want to sprinkle in some questions that I've had from people around the community. So we know that all of us have participated in partisan politics, either currently or in the past. Although this is a nonpartisan race, we still must account for our partisan current and past affiliations. Larry, your past or current partisan affiliation gives pause to some as you run this nonpartisan race. How would you like to explain or attempt to quell the concerns of those who have expressed reservations in throwing their support behind your candidacy?
First of all, I would like to remind everyone that the Board of Education is a nonpartisan position and you do not claim party affiliation when you register. So, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my political history. At the age of 18, I registered as a Democrat in the state of West Virginia. I was a registered Democrat in the state of West Virginia for 25 years until I moved to Georgia. Then, when I came to Georgia, I still participated as a Democrat until 2018. In 2016, I voted in the Democrat presidential primary. I did not pull my first Republican ballot in the state of Georgia until 2018. I then participated as a Republican from 2018 to 2022. In 2022, I made the decision to leave the Republican Party and to become an independent. So I have been an independent since 2022, and I will remain an independent because I do not believe that the two parties either hold my values at heart any longer, and that I will vote for candidates and not party affiliation or party label. I am an individual, and I will hold myself accountable to my own beliefs and not a party's platform. That's my answer to that question today.
Thank you. And I do want to make a note. I know it's a nonpartisan race. Sandra Jackson Lett put in it's a nonpartisan race, but believe it or not everyone knows that. So I'm glad we have to make it known, and I'm happy that Larry was willing to accept that question and respond to that question.
And
Um,
I want to make something clear today, and we can tell everybody this. Today, when you first agreed to interview me, you asked me, "Well, Larry, are you going to submit me questions?" And I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "That's not the way we're going to do this. You're going to ask me anything you want. It'll be unfiltered." I said, "It will not be prepared." I said, "You throw any question you want because as a candidate and as somebody who's wanting to represent the citizens of Rockdale County and the students, I need to be able to be transparent and fair in my answers and know that nothing was staged and it's all on the up and up, and that who I am is who you get."
all right. Thank you for that. Um, Now this is the question again that people have asked for the community. So I'll put this in before we get to your last platform note. How can the Board of Education make a senior exemption happen?
I'm glad you've asked that question. Okay, so I've been told that I'm making campaign promises that I can't keep, right? So in 2017, this board of commission, this board of education, and the majority of the members on it decided they weren't being compensated enough for what they were doing. They were receiving $75 per meeting, 2 meetings a month, that's $150. They wrote a resolution and passed it and sent it to the local delegation asking for an $850 a month salary. The local delegation said, "We think you're doing such a fantastic job. We'll give you $1,000. So local legislation was passed allowing the board members to get $1,000 a month salary. Now, how was that initiated? It was initiated by a request from the Board of Education. The Board of Education passed a resolution asking the local delegation to pass legislation. In the same manner that the Board of Education asked for, sent a resolution to the local delegation asking for a pay raise, the Board of Education can pass a resolution asking the delegation to pass legislation asking for a senior exemption of school taxes for our seniors. And I've put this on the record earlier that I don't think that Rockdale County, with a number of seniors, will be able to afford a blanket one. And I'm not irresponsible. I am what I would define myself as a fiscally responsible individual. So, but if you would have seen him, and I think the Rockdale Voter is getting ready to put an email out, and I think some the Voices for Rockdale did already. The number of people who are being foreclosed on in Rockdale County and their homes are going to be sold at JP Carr on July the 2nd because they can't pay taxes. That's not because they can't pay the county portion, the Board of Commission problem. It's because they can't really afford the Board of Education portion, which is 80% of their property tax bill. So senior citizens who are at a poverty level income should be exempt from property taxes in Rockdale County. And everybody else is just going to have to realize. So we're going to have to realize we're going to have to make tough decisions because we can't keep putting senior citizens out of their homes. We do have to provide a quality education for our students. And that's where we look at what really needs to happen in the budget, where can we cut, what do we really need to do? Because we also can't keep putting senior citizens out of their homes and then be going to the courthouse steps yearly and selling their homes because they can't afford taxes. So when you have Board of Education members that tell you they can't do it, they're not being truthful to you. The truth is Board of Education members have the right, the Board of Education has the right to ask our local delegation to pass legislation on, and that's not the superintendent's purview. A few years ago, the Terry Oates negotiated a $50,000 from $35,000 to $50,000 with our local delegation, and he was out of his realm. That was not his responsibility to do. That was the responsibility of your elected school board to ask that delegation to do that. It was not Terry Oates's. His job is to run the day-to-day operation. It is the board's responsibility to pass a budget, and that is part of the budgetary process. If you are going to give an exemption to senior citizens, so I would suggest that the superintendent asks board members to learn their role. I would, in return, ask Mr. Oates, please learn your role, Mr. Oates.
Thank you for that. I know that's been weighing on a lot of people concerning that senior exemption.
And I do want to add this. I have commitment from Representative Angela Moore that she will carry that legislation in the Georgia House.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And that just goes into the last topic that I want to talk to you about is the new leadership. We know that you are looking forward to having new leadership. For me, I would want leadership who listens, leadership who's truthful, leadership who's interested in our community and our students. So, what would you be looking for in new leadership for RCPS if and when you're elected to the Board of Education?
Very similar tonight. I want a board of first. I want a board member who I think I'm not a board. I mean, a superintendent who would know how to work with the dynamic of what our school system is made up. I mean, and I think you and I may have talked about, and I've talked about this to many other people. But the Rockdale County, we may be sort of a rural school system, but our student body and what we look like is more. We look more inner city, is what I've been told by our educational professionals. So I think we need to get a superintendent who would be more comfortable and has experience leading an inner city school system. I then would like a superintendent who doesn't mind working as a team member. This superintendent needs to be able to be receptive to working with the board, receptive to working with the community committee, receptive to working with the Board of Commission, receptive to working with the City of Conyers, because all three of these silos are going to have to work together with our property taxes, and because they all talk about it's pivotal to have a good educational system. Well, we're all three going to have to work together to have this good educational system. The city, the county, and the Board of Education. And the key to that is having a superintendent who is not somebody who wants to take his ball, go in the corner, and not play with everybody else. We have to have somebody who is a team player, somebody who actually recognizes the fact we do, Tene, we do have experts in education. And they're called teachers, and they're in the classroom every single day. We need to get feedback from our professionals, from our experts in education, someone who is willing to work with the experts that are in the field every day teaching our students. what they need, what our students need. We need that person who is willing to work wholeheartedly with this community. And we need that person who is willing to live in our community, to be engaged, involved, and be part of this community. That's what I envision for the next superintendent of Rockdale County Schools.
Thank you for that vision. Thank you. We needed to hear that from you. And someone just asked, do you think the superintendent should live in this county? And you just answered that. So far we've talked about a number of things, but definitely I wanted to expound upon the three parts of your campaign that I want to forward, that I definitely agree with: discipline, community engagement, and new leadership. I'm glad you also talked about the taxes. I'm also glad you talked about some of the other things that people had concerns with, because you're willing to be transparent. You're willing to give of yourself, your time, your energy to this community. And I'm asking, as we close down, I'm going to let Larry give his final thoughts about everything. And then I'll come back with my ask. So, Larry, can you wrap up everything and give your final thoughts as we lead into our final week of early voting, going into the June 18th election?
I can do that. Tene, there was an interesting comment that I read on social media yesterday, and I'm actually going to go try to look it up. I'm going to read it real quick to you because it was very interesting. It was a little bit troublesome to me when I read it, because I really didn't take it as a hit on me as I did actually some of the other board members. So um, this is the comment, and I'm not going to say who it is because I'm not going to bash people. But I'm just going to read because the comment's out there, right? It is just my opinion, but I believe that we are at a real crossroads with our runoff election for the Rockdale County Board, for the school board. We have a vote for stability or a vote for dysfunction and division. A vote for Mandy North is a vote for stability and continuing a high quality functioning BOE. Take advantage of the early voting opportunities or vote on election day. The main thing is that you vote. And he says he's voting for Mandy North. So this is, I took a couple of things from here. I do agree with this author that we are at a pivotal moment and a crossroads in this Board of Election race. And there are two visions, I believe, that are currently on this board. We have a vision of a certain group of members who want to ignore that there's a problem with the school system and continue on with the status quo. Then you have a group that want to acknowledge that there are problems with this school system and they want to move on with new leadership and correct the course of the school system. And when the author puts in there that a vote for my opponent continues a high quality or high, let me return it on again. I want to get that correct. A highly functional BOE. So is he insinuating that if I would win, then I would be the lowest ranking member on the board? Other people would take that chair and vice chair position, would not be I. Or is he saying that those other people aren't competent enough to make sound decisions and are dysfunctional? Because can't be talking about me. I'm just one of seven. That's a bothersome statement for me because it comes from an influential former board member, and it's a troubling statement to hear someone of that stature say that, because that comment wasn't necessarily about me. It was about three other members of the Board of Education is what that was about. So I just want you guys to know this election is a crossroads, and it is about change. And it's we either stay the direction this board is on now, or you give change a chance, you elect me, and it will force this board to get out of its comfort zone and consider doing some things they wouldn't normally do. And I would not be the loose cannon that people would say, but I would not be the quiet mouse in the corner either. I will represent you. I will stand up for you. I will be the biggest advocate for the taxpayers and the children that they've ever had. And I will have my community town halls that I want students to come to also, not just parents, not just community members, but I want students to come to those meetings because I want to hear from them also. And I will be coming to a school near me. I will be scheduling visits. I will be getting to know the faculty, the administration, and the students. Because when I went to school, I knew Mr. Coleman and I knew Miss Sussman, and they knew me. And I want you to know me also. That's my answer, and that's my wrap up. And now I'll answer anything you wish me to.
Well, I'm just going to put my final 2 cents in. Larry, we're going to hold you to all of that. We're going to hold you to all of that because what we need is change. And not having you on the board will mean there will be no change. Will mean that we will have the same old in this community for our education. And if we're fine with that, then we will not vote for Larry Cox. But if we want to see any type of change, everyone who is under the sound of my voice, everyone who's under the sound of Larry Cox's voice will go out and vote either this week or go out and vote on the June 18th for Larry Cox, where we can start ushering in change. Change as far as new leadership, change as far as community engagement, change as far as discipline. And I'll just say this as a side note, when I did my Facebook Live back last month, you all know I have two little ones, a 4 and an 8-year-old. The 8-year-old is at Lorraine, going to third grade, and the 4-year-old is going to pre-K, but she's not going to Lorraine. She won't enter RCPS because RCPS is not ready for my 4-year-old because she has more needs than my 8-year-old because she has sensory processing disorder that she has been treated for, because she has gone through speech, because she has gone through occupational therapy, because she is doing so well, and I refuse to put her in a system that has speech online. I refuse to put her in a system that I don't know if they'll do a 504 plan for her. I refuse to put her in a system where she may backtrack. So yes, personally, selfishly, I need Larry Cox on that board so I can bring Eva Davis to RCPS, not next year, but when she goes to kindergarten. So I'm asking you all to vote for her because right now, Eva Davis will stay at Georgia State University early daycare, their early child development center. So I'm asking again, all of the 5,288 people who voted for me, I thank you. I'm asking you all to go back. I'm asking you all this time to put in your vote for Larry Cox so that we can see the desperate change, the needed change we need, the needed change we need for this community. So once again, early voting continues. It already started this weekend. It continues until Friday, June the 14th. And voting, election day is on Tuesday the 18th. Please go out and vote. Again, Kevin Tav has thrown his support behind Larry Cox. Darlene Smith has thrown his support behind Larry Cox. And me, Tene Davis, has thrown my support behind Larry Cox. And we can do this. Y'all, we can do this.
We can do this, and I appreciate everybody's support. And I'm gonna tell you guys, if I wouldn't be in this runoff, and you would have one of these other individuals that would be in a runoff, or they would have won, I would be right there supporting them because I got to know each and every one of these individuals as we were campaigning, and we had so much in common of the things we wanted to do that we couldn't go wrong with. I think anybody that we would have elected, and and change is needed, and change will happen, and we just got to stick together as a community. We got one more vote to go.
One more, we can do this. All right, that's all I got for you, Larry.
Okay, and if you and
Appreciate
I'm gonna sign the show off. You just stick on for a second.
Okay.
We'll say bye, everybody. I'll see you guys next Sunday. I had to Tawanya Smith canceled. I'm going to see if she wants to come on next Sunday. She had to cancel this week because she had another engagement that was pressing. But I think we'll get her on the show next Sunday. And guys, I just appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Go out, vote, tell your friends. This is a pivotal election for this county. You need to be involved. Thank you and good night.